Non-binary equals ugly as either gender. Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and I was just talking to a YouTuber named Fat Skeptic on a live stream yesterday who has some pretty interesting ideas if you want to check out his channel, link in the description. Somehow or other, we ended up talking about transgenderism, feminist gender theory, and how it's nonsense, and eventually a topic that I've long discussed on my channel in great detail in several instances in several videos, which is non-binary, gender-neutral, and other types of trans trenders. I have numerous videos about the topic, of course, but the Fat Skeptic, that's his channel name, Fat Skeptic, said something quite interesting, which was honestly a thought that I had never actually had, or at least articulated in my brain, but is something that I think I've totally noticed in numerous instances. I asked him if I could make an entire video about it, and he said yes, but I want to credit him with the idea. He said something brief, which was something to the effect of, I think a lot of people end up identifying as some sort of non-binary, gender-neutral type person because they are aware that they are or would be somewhat unattractive as either gender. Now, I'll be perfectly honest. I normally wouldn't make this observation in one of my videos, even if I had articulated that in my own head, because it sounds kind of mean. But since I'm using Fat Skeptic's idea, I might as well run with it and blame him. I've definitely met numerous unattractive people, both male and female, who end up identifying as non-binary, when I've always wondered why they don't transition entirely, and it does kind of beg the question. Maybe some of them don't do it because they know they'd still be ugly. I mean, let's think about this. Imagine you're a male, and let's say you're too girly to be particularly attractive as a man, but you still have fairly masculine features. What do? Well, obviously, the solution would be to call yourself non-binary. Problem solved, right? Similarly, you could be a female who is fairly chubby, that has never been all that attractive, and is fairly butch. Still, you realize that taking testosterone would be rather difficult and has some negative health effects, and in order to be particularly hot, you'd have to start working out and stop eating like a wild boar. And thus, you can just be non-binary. No commitment in that, right? You don't have to really do anything. You just change your label. And then, of course, you can also get the added bonus of being somewhat special, and you can find camaraderie with the people who are also somewhat similarly unattractive and call themselves non-binary. And together you can sit around complaining about how people won't consider dating you, not because you're unattractive, but because you're non-binary. Or maybe you don't even want to get dates, you say, because you're supposedly asexual, supposedly. Very few self-identified non-binary types of people are all that good looking in any way. Riley Dennis was actually a somewhat handsome young man some time ago, which is kind of sad, but I think Riley probably just has major issues with men, likely due to some sort of abuse, and that's his motivation for being non-binary trans, or whatever he calls himself, or she calls herself, not they, whatever Riley calls themselves, okay? I'm not going to cater to any sort of nonsense gender, but I also don't want to be mean and call Riley a he because he is transitioning. Oh God. I'd also say the same thing about Milo Stewart because Milo Stewart isn't all that bad looking. One of the rare cases. Like Milo Stewart is not attractive exactly, but when Milo was a girl, she could have, gotten laid. It's not like she's horribly ugly. But I think that she probably just has major issues around sex and gender identity, likely because she was abused or something. She really seems like it. The way that she talked and her character arc is so just seems like somebody that was abused. That's all I can say. Regardless, still, I think that people will find that if they met the vast majority of people who self-identify as non-binary, they are usually rather unattractive people. So it could be totally a way of saying, I'm not ugly, I'm non-binary and special. If you don't validate me in that way, you're a bigot. But really, they just wish that they weren't ugly. That's all for this video.